So ladies and gentlemen, quite a few topics that we need to get into today. So of course, we need to talk about what's come out of the court case with Jonathan Majors. Then we're going to just dip into some DCEU news with Aquaman and what's going on with that release. And as the somewhat DCEU phases out on not so much of a high, really. And then, of course, towards the end of this video, we're getting into some DCU updates. We've got James Gunn talking about more things, as usual, so definitely don't miss out on that part. But, of course, I can't not talk about what's just dropped. I mean, well, technically, by the time you're seeing this, it wouldn't have just dropped. Now, this story came out very quickly after the news that Jonathan Majors was indeed found guilty by a Manhattan jury of reckless assault in the third degree and guilty of harassment following a 2-week trial that stemmed from a March incident between the actor and his ex-partner. And what I mean by this news releasing fairly quickly is that Marvel, the headline of this very Hollywood Reporter article is that Marvel drops Jonathan Majors after assault harassment verdict, which of course may not be surprising. It's just interesting how swiftly that came out, but I guess they didn't want to waste any time there. And as the Hollywood Reporter goes on to say here, before his March arrest, Majors was positioned as the key figure in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the Disney Plus owned studio building its entire current story arc around Majors' Kang the Conqueror. Now, this is where they get into the discourse of what the heck is going to happen now. And that is something that I do view as pretty up in the air, but we'll get into that more in a second. But what they've got to say, according to their sources, is that Marvel has 2 courses it could take now. It could recast the part, although it is not clear how many actors would be attracted to a role from which one actor was so publicly fired, and that's very true. The other course is to redevelop its plans and refocus on a brand new villain. While Marvel sources are mum, there is indication that the studio has already been doing just that. In November, Marvel hired Loki creator Michael Waldron to work on a new draft of what was once called Kang Dynasty, but is now being referred to as Avengers 5, according to sources. And this is the thing. It is like, what are they going to do now? What do you guys think that they should do with the future of the MCU that they were originally orchestrating surrounding Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror? Now, number one, as we already just briefly went over from the article, is should they recast? Now, I guess in one way, given the multiverse, especially of which the MCU is very much so embracing these days, even though they apparently planned on having Jonathan Majors play every variant of Kang the Conqueror, they could quite simply easily say, well, no, the multiverse has different looking Kangs now, and it's that straightforward. But then again, there are a few things that come with this. There's what the Hollywood Reporter mentioned. Will they find like an actor who is really that keen on fulfilling a role in where this previous actor was so publicly fired? They could, and I'm sure they would eventually find someone. But then again, continuing with the character of Kang, even with a new actor, even if, let's just say, a lot of people are like, oh, I can imagine this said actor, and let me know who you think could or you would want to take over the role, there is the idea of this somewhat aura following the role of Kang, the character in the MCU, that would maybe still be in the air, even if it's just comparisons with the new actor to whatever else. So what I'm trying to say there is, from a PR perspective and just, I guess, wanting to keep their future hype surrounding the next big bad villain, if you will, as clean and as hype for fans all alike to enjoy in the future, void of any stigma whatsoever. Even if some of you out there are saying, well, if we had a new actor, I wouldn't see any stigma. I think no matter what, it would have some kind of slog behind it from the past of what we're now talking about. So I wouldn't blame Marvel, is all I'm saying, if they wanted to move in a completely new direction with a big bad. So obviously that's when we now look into, okay, so who would that be? And then the most popular villain of choice would be Doctor Doom for the MCU. And obviously, if anything, how that fits in more naturally with what they've got planned with Secret Wars rather than that of Kang. So yeah, they could make that pivot there, and maybe that would be the smartest way to go, just from the, I guess, perhaps brand perspective. But the thing is, that is still quite an undertaking behind the scenes. I mean, you think you're going to go one way, and it's like, oh man, we now need to really kind of think about how we're going to reshape everything. And I can't imagine for 1 second, as the Hollywood Reporter were also getting into, that they haven't been attempting to plan in advance, knowing the issues surrounding Jonathan Majors for these past several months. Just in the sense that, hey, if we need to go this way instead, then we should probably start thinking about it. And there's no way that they haven't been already thinking about it, because obviously it could have turned out this way, and lo and behold, it did. So they've probably already gone back to the drawing board a little while ago, just in case. But the thing is, what's that going to be? A recast of Kang, and they're just going to still pursue that storyline, but maybe not for the reasons I said. That's why it could be now just be referred to as Avengers 5, as what's being reported. However, I do want to say that they could retitle it Kang Dynasty again if they do decide to go for that recast. But as of per November, when we got the new writer for Kang Dynasty, he could have been cooking away with the script from scratch with a whole new direction, just in case this eventuality came to be. But let me know any and all thoughts you have with regards to this story. Now, up next, we have some news about Aquaman. There's a couple of different things that I want to sift through here. First being, Jason Momoa says that his future as Aquaman is not looking too good. And I find this interesting because it's kind of the situation where if you're as into this fandom as we are, we know exactly what's going down, but because the movie's just coming out, I guess Momoa is not being, I guess, as candid as he could be, because, you know, there's the whole Lobo thing, and I guess he doesn't want to be like, by the way, I'm not Aquaman anymore, I'm Lobo straight up. But we all kind of know where that's going. Here from Entertainment Weekly, they say Jason Momoa is getting candid about the future of the Aquaman franchise. He says, I don't necessarily want it to end, but I don't think it's really like a choice. He goes on to say, the truth of it is, I mean, if the audience loves it, then there's a possibility. But right now, I'm like, it's not looking too good. I mean, no, definitely not. There isn't a possibility. I mean, I think we can all agree here. I mean, can we all agree? There isn't a possibility of Aquaman 3. He is very, 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 very likely playing Lobo in the future. This is the final movie of the DCEU. It's just, I guess, when being asked about it, he still has to give coy answers like this. It's really as simple as that. He does play around with other things by saying, if there's a place in their world for me with regards to James Gunn and Peter Safran's DCU, I would love to be a part of it. This is my home. Warner Brothers and DC is definitely my home. So that's all I'll say. But yeah, I mean, we know. We know, Momoa, we know. But this isn't the only thing with regards to Aquaman, because the thing is, I think people didn't expect something absolutely huge with regards to Aquaman 2's release, because it's the final DC EU movie, but I think they were expecting just a little bit more of like a, you know, at least maybe a red carpet. But as tweeted here by Boris Kidd, a writer for The Hollywood Reporter, he says, and thus the DCEU ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. No red carpet premiere, no after party, just a small but neat pre-reception, a fan screening, and only Jason Momoa and James Wan at the Grove to close out a veritable era. And that seems to be it. Like, there's no big kind of oomph premiere for this movie, which some of you may be like, well, you know, so, but like, it's still a movie that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's, I think, what people are thinking about here. Even if you want to say, but it's the last DCEU movie, they've all not been getting past 400 mil at the box office, so surely maybe it makes sense that Warner Brothers doesn't want to promote it that much if it's the last one and they're gearing up to a new DCU. It's just, you know, for such an expensive movie, that's something that can't really be forgotten about with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. To not get a little bit more of a prestigious, we're not talking like Mission Impossible level, like all over the world, everywhere, but it's not even got like a hundredth of some kind of reception to its release. And that probably is, like, if we want to just face it, even if a lot of people think that the movie, James Wan, all of those who worked on it, it deserves a lot more respect, it seems as though that Warner Brothers just like, I mean, after the first Aquaman movie, not including Joker and the Batman, which obviously made way past $400 million at the box office, but they're Elseworlds movies. The final DCEU movies, every single one after Aquaman, the first, you know, the $1 billion movie, didn't get past 400 mil. They released The Flash, they put so much money into that, zoom. And then Black Adam, you know, it almost got 400 mil, 393 or something like that million. Shazam, my God, 136 million worldwide. Blue Beetle, even though a lot of fans loved it, didn't do well. So I just think they're looking at Aquaman 2 and they're like, sorry, not sorry. We're going to kind of release it. We're going to do something, but we're not going to give it like a big oomph at the opening. So I would love to know what you think about that. And are you actually excited to see Aquaman 2? But it doesn't end there. Before we get onto the James Gunn DCU stuff, we do have this article here from the Direct. And it is interesting. I've seen this conversation happen in multiple places. The DCEU's final movie gets worrying critics update. And that is because critic Dave Gonzalez revealed that the review embargo for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is Thursday, December 21st. Now, this is 1 day prior to the sequel's US debut, leaving little time for audiences to absorb reviews. But for select countries and territories where Aquaman 2 releases on December 20th, reviews won't be posted until the day after, and others the day of. For example, in the UK, where I am, where the final DCEU chapter premieres on December 21st, reviews will be posted that same day or even after the movie has already come out. And the thing is, traditionally, that's not a good look when basically reviews are posting in such a short window, sometimes even the day of. It's just like, why didn't you want people to see it earlier and, release the embargo, lift the embargo a little bit sooner so critics could get their thoughts out there? Because, no matter how many of you may say critics don't matter, this, that, and the other, I get it. People still want to hear the thoughts. Like, there are people out there, and it does sometimes sway opinions. So when you kind of lock that within a very short window, it doesn't give the best impression of faith in the movie. And that's the thing. I've been invited to a screening to see it tomorrow, Wednesday. But yeah, the embargo isn't until Thursday, which is also the release date. So, in case you're interested, I will give a first impressions, no spoilers review on my experience of Aquaman. I am still looking forward to having a good time. I think that's because, by the way, just full disclosure, my expectations going in is that, it's the last DCEU movie. I'm very much so familiar with the kind of buddy cop vibe of Orm and Aquaman with this movie. It did look fun in the second and third trailers. So, I'm just there to have a good time. So it's going to be interesting to see how my thoughts fare with the final DCEU movie before we take quite a large break. In all fairness, I do want to point out that they say, but it's also worth noting that this DC film franchise has a history of tight review embargoes, which was worked to its advantage, such as in the case of 2017's Wonder Woman, which did do very, very well. So, we need to go in not with necessarily a negative mindset. If you want to see the movie, my advice would be see the movie. I enjoyed the first film, it did well, and I'm going to go see the second film, but it ultimately is going to be interesting to see how it fares, obviously. Okay, and lastly, the DCU news segment. Gunn has been at it again. We need a little jingle here. I need an animator who can just make something like, in this segment of James Gunn's DC... I don't know, but it seems to be a regular thing here. And this reminds me, guys, for those of you who have made it to this part of the video, I would love for you to ask me questions down in the comments below, especially with the recent news of Matt Reeves' Arkham series now being a DCU series, what that means for the DCU Batman, any ideas, theories, questions you have for Rogues, what that could build up for the DCU Batman, all these kinds of things. I'm going to be doing a DCU discussion series video, uploading over Christmas during my time off, so I want to feature some of your comments, questions, theories, ideas, anything. Let me know them down in the comments below. And obviously anything with regards to the DCU in general. So first up, here we have this user here saying, do you think a lack of DC content in 2024 is going to kill the brand? He says, I think it's great for us for the reset. And I think that's very, very true. I mean, if anything, DC could probably do with a little bit longer. We do love DC characters. Say what you will about how it's been handled before, but if you go a period of time, the hunger for that brand and seeing live action characters will eventually be a thing. So yes, I think it could do with even longer, but no matter what, we do, yes, have a break. We haven't got anything after Aquaman 2. Nothing in January, nothing in February, so on and so forth. Technically, Superman and Lois is meant to come out sometime during 2024. That's probably going to be August, September, October maybe. Then you've got the Elseworlds Joker film, but I would still say these aren't really going to be attributed, at least in the audience's minds, as big milestone DCEU, DCU moments, if you know what I mean. It's not like Superman Legacy is launching. But I do agree with James Gunn that no matter what, we do have quite a nice large break. Hopefully it will garner some, oh, you know what? I kind of want to see the DCU for some people. This user here says, James Gunn, with the use of practical sets, would you also use the volume for Superman Legacy? Or are the sets too big for that? And Gunn did say, sets are too big and my cameras move too much, which is just cool to know, you know, that Superman Legacy is going to have nice big sets. Not only do we know, by the way, that it's filming all around the world, I'm really interested to know the budget of this movie. I hope it's not like too big, because I think one thing that Hollywood needs to learn from the Flash movie, other spectacle movies, even Indiana Jones, and how movies like that fared in the box office, it doesn't, more money doesn't equate more profit. But either way, it is still cool to know and imagine the sets of Superman Legacy here. Gunn saying that his cameras move too much to be able to even use the volume. Either way, it's nice to know that a lot of it's going to be practical with regards to big sets, but also practical on location stuff as well. And I just can't wait to even see what that's going to look like potentially with the Fortress of Solitude, Metropolis. That's going to be fantastic. At least I hope so. Then we have this other user talking about what we were just saying a second ago. There's nothing coming out of the cinematic universe, so 2024 feels dead because of it. I'm excited for Penguin and Superman and Lois Season 4, but that's like late 2024. There's nothing coming out in 6 months. Creature Commandos is DCU. So all I want to say here is, and I totally forgot about the Penguin for a second there, yeah, that could still very much so be 2024, so we kind of have that, but again, another Elseworlds project like Joker. But he says Creature Commandos is DCU in direct reply to this comment. And the last words of that comment is this user saying there's nothing coming in 6 months. Well, is he kind of indirectly saying that Creature Commandos could release in the first half of 2024? I'm not saying that is the case, but you never know. The voice roles were done a long time ago now. They've been working on the animation for quite a while, but animation does take, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with your favorite animated shows, a very, very long time. But yeah, I mean, it could technically be out by summer of 2024. So I'm actually inclined to maybe believe that. Now, up next is a series of threads posts from Gunn about the Superman suit, which is something I always love talking about here, because I don't even think a future Batman suit is as divisive as what people kind of view as what a Superman suit should be. So this user here says Trunks belongs to a Superman costume, like the S on the chest, also the emblem on the cape. If there will not be a Superman costume, then don't make a Superman movie. Create a new superhero if you don't like the real Superman. So many people are so anal about it. It's like, he's basically saying, if that's not it, that's not a Superman costume, then don't make a Superman movie if you don't like the Superman design. What do people not get about how there's different iterations of it? Either way, Gunn takes to reply by saying, this might be an extreme point of view. The costume has changed in many, many ways throughout the years. This is not an extreme point of view. That's, yeah, exactly what I just said. They are all, or mostly all, valid versions of Superman with or without Trunks, with or without the yellow S on the cape, with or without black around the S, which is, I really want that, with or without the mullet, and on and on and on. And I agree. I've said this before with Batman suit designs, Joker designs. People in the replies to me across the years have said, no, the Joker has to be this way. And I've always said, just because you've absorbed a certain amount of DC material, whether that's reading material to video games to movies, and you've had it in your memory banks of what a character should look like, that doesn't mean that other people haven't absorbed other iterations and material as well. For some people, Batman might be Adam West's design. For some people, it might be Frank Miller's. For some people, Joker might be the Killing Joke somewhat design. For some other people, it might be a very kind of grueling, horrific-looking Joker. The same thing can be applied to Superman. Some people really think if they grew up with, I don't know, Christopher Reeve's Superman, that he has to have trunks. And I know they have seen other modern iterations of Superman, like Henry Cavill's with a belt, but that's still not their Superman that they know. So they have that inbuilt preference. So I completely stand with Gunn once again. So many people are so convicted in that it's this way or the highway, but I couldn't disagree more. You know, I have my preference. For example, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I really wouldn't mind at all if there are trunks. I like trunks, but my preference is for Corin Sweat Superman to not have trunks, have the black and red symbol. Eventually, as the DCU 8 to 10 year plan goes on, of course, get the red and yellow symbol, but I wouldn't mind him starting off with the black and red. And then, yeah, I also want a symbol on the cape. I think that would be really cool as well. But it doesn't have to be one way. And also, I wish there wasn't such a, outcry, because, there's going to be when there's a new Batman suit or when Superman Legacy suit gets revealed. It's going to be like, I reckon it's going to get pretty toxic. Some people are going to love it, but you just know there's going to be people going nuts and being like, James Gunn destroyed this, even if it is a reasonable Superman suit design that I might not totally agree with. Let's just say he went with trunks. I'd be like, okay, I really like that, but I still would have preferred it without it. But I wouldn't be like going crazy. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to that and what I just rambled about. So, for example, if James Gunn, or if there was a new DCU Batman suit, which we will have revealed in the future, was completely yellow, there's innovation, but when you deviate, and that would be a deviation, a completely yellow Superman suit, it's like, wait, what are you even doing? No cape as well? Like, what? That's deviation. Innovate, don't deviate, end of. And here's another comment from user saying, people who don't want trunks are not really Superman fans. They are Zack Snyder fans. Don't try to appease them. What? I don't necessarily want trunks, as I've said, and I'm a Superman fan. Are you kidding me? I'm a Snyder fan as well. But like, what? And as Gunn said, rightfully so, that's not true. Lots of people like the trunks, and lots of people don't. I understand both. And then another one. Please, James Gunn, no trunks on Superman. You wouldn't believe the amount of pleading and upset I get based around trunks or no trunks. To me, not the most important aspect of Superman or his story, but so many strong feelings. And then we have another user saying, what about cape or no cape? Well, there's a cape, he responds, obviously. I mean, Jesus. I mean, if there was no cape, oh my God. Now, this next thread's response I really like because it tackles the whole conversation of superhero fatigue, and we've been on about that on this channel before. I do think it's a very, very, in my opinion, accurate assessment of what is sometimes misconstrued as fatigue in these superhero movies. So we have this user saying, I have a question. There are a lot of epic and stunningly beautiful sci-fi movies out there, but they do not become more than just that. A film with amazing scenery, but the characters are empty, dead shells. I think you are a mega pro about making us care about the characters, even like the receptionist in a quick scene. What do you think is the pitfalls heavy visual directors fall into? What are the things they forget to consider when they design how they direct their own film? And Gunn replied to that saying, the biggest pitfall of a lot of all spectacle film is not prioritizing characters and honest story over everything else. Spectacle only works if we love and care about the character's story and stakes. And I think that is it in a nutshell. I'm not saying that we don't have guilty pleasures out there of spectacle movies, whether you want to say Fast and Furious to this, that, and the other. People do enjoy that. People do buy tickets. But no matter what, if you look across the board, movies that favor just spectacle like that, they are dropping off over time. And I do think that's because there's been a massive influx in Hollywood over the past 10 or so years of these spectacle movies. I mean, obviously more than 10 years technically. And what's come out of that, or has been sacrificed, or at least not as prioritized, is characters in those movies, emotion, story for these characters. And say what you will, even if you're not a fan of Gunn's Guardians movies, they do offer spectacle in it, but you do care about the characters quite a lot. That's why he's had a lot of success with those movies and why there's so many fans. Imagine if Superman Legacy was completely stuffed with, cape, action, punches, explosions, you name it, like for a whole 2 hours and 20 minutes, and there's only like, out of the 2 hours and 20 minutes, 8 minutes of exploration into the characters, investment into them, the emotion, the very ability to make the audience connect. Now, I'm not saying these other spectacle movies don't have that in them, but the ratio of spectacle versus that is if you had like a bar here, and I wish I could do the graphics, but the whole bar of the movie would be taken up like over 80% of the spectacle. And just here would be the emotion and the characters. But if they made that maybe a little bit more in the middle, then you would have a nice cocktail of something that fans would really care about, but also be visually entertained by on that spectacle front at the same time. So I don't know how many of you agree with this. I know quite a few of you do, but I do see some people disagree. But honestly, not to sound close-minded, but I really do think if you take a look at all the kind of spectacle movies and what's kind of happened, and then the kind of lack of connection from the audience to them versus the movies that do have that connection, there's a clear difference. One favoring spectacle and one favoring, or at least balancing that out a lot better with the characters, the story, and that emotion. And that is one thing, again, say what you will about James Gunn helming this DCU, you may not be a fan of that, you might be, that I am happy about with regards to him, because he seems to understand that. Now, next up, we have this question saying, will Guy's suit, so Guy Gardner, the Lantern in Superman Legacy, will his suit be real, CGI, or both? And Gunn said, I can't remember ever having a CG suit unless it was on a CG character. So even though that may be, I guess, already an answer in some people's minds, at least you got some confirmation there that unless the character's going to be CG, they will have a practical suit. So Mr. Terrific's suit's going to be practical. You can take out of this, in my opinion, Guy Gardner. I mean, and if you look at their comic book suits as well, I don't see why Guy Gardner would have a CGI suit, so that will be practical. The Engineer will, I imagine, be CG with dots just because of her freaking liquid metal look. That one's fairly self-explanatory, but for the most part, Hawk Girl's suit, I'm guessing not CGI. Metamorpho, though, probably a CGI character, given, like, my god, he's literally made up of different elements and can conjure different elements, so I guess Anthony Carrigan's going to be sporting a bit of dottage on set as well. But yeah, I can't wait to see what these practical suits look like. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything I wanted to pack into this news roundup, so let me know any and all thoughts down in the comments below, obviously from the Jonathan Majors stuff. How do you feel about it? Where do you think Marvel should go in the future with regards to making that decision of a recast or obviously a new big bad? Let me know what you think about the Aquaman stuff and of course all the little tidbits on the DCU. I really appreciate it that you got this far. If you're still watching right now, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help me out. Consider subscribing. Double check to see if you are subscribed, because you actually might not be. But until next time, guys, thank you just so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.